Welcome to This Week in Guns, a podcast that covers the commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. I'm your host, Jake Challen from Gun Guy Radio, and you make this show possible. That's right. Every time you click through our Amazon affiliate link, a small portion of your sale goes back to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. Well, we have a great panel this week. We have Natalie Foster joining us from Girls Guide to Guns. Hey, Natalie.
What's up, guys? Excited to see y'all.
It's great to have you back, and you're in HD this week.
I know. You can actually see me this week. I won't have to turn my face off.
And we have Billy Johnson from Amidst the Noise. Hey, Billy.
Hey, what's up, Jake? How you doing, man?
Doing great. Glad to have you back. And we have Adam Kraut, Firearms Industry Consulting Group, Division of Prince Law Offices. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Jake. How you doing?
Doing great. And last but not least, we have Nate Murr, writer for Recoil magazine and inventor of the GripStop.
Hi, Jake. It's good to see everybody again. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome panel, as always. So, announcement before we get going. Tough Mudder is coming up here in Chicagoland, just almost less than a week, just about a week off. It's not this Saturday, but next Saturday. It's still not too late to join our team, the Gun Runners, the Firearms Radio Network Gun Runners. If you're interested, joining our team, email Carol at fat2fithq.com. So let's get into the top stories this evening. Baltimore, when seconds counted, the police were nowhere to be seen.
And retreating, by the way. I don't know if you saw any of that footage, but they had rocks being thrown at them and they retreated. But I mean, not that I fault them, by the way, because they're gonna. When I watched that footage of them retreating, I thought, they are afraid of getting sued. I mean, they're afraid of losing their jobs and families falling apart. And I mean, I'm sure there was a lot. It was a very loaded image, but anyway, that was pretty interesting.
I think what it shows is when you have a large group of people that are committed to creating a tremendous amount of chaos, really not a lot can stop that. That we don't want to see. I mean, it would have to get really nasty to stop that. And I think it's, it makes a case for people being able to defend themselves. I mean, you saw how many small business owners lost their businesses because, people just looted them and burned them down. And it's really unfortunate to see that, especially when, those people are trying to build a business in those communities. And unfortunately, people ruined it.
I think the police are showing great restraint right now down there. I mean, like if they use other less lethal tools, to their disposal to be able to fight what's going on down there, it would be very reminiscent of prior riots, over the different decades, and it'd be used as ammunition against them and further validate the concept that police are using excessive force. So I think, I have 3 different friends that are Baltimore City cops. I sent them a text the other day saying, hey, stay safe. And they gave me some very unique insights to what's going on down there, and I definitely do not envy their job right now. So they're literally doing it with one hand tied behind their back, but so be it.
Well, the mayor wanted to, give the mob room to destroy, or what would she say?
That's not what she said. They mischaracterized her statement, even though it was on video and played back on loop a number of different times. They took it out of context.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Well,
What is interesting to me is I didn't know until reading all the feeds and everything what the origin of this whole riot was. I mean, I didn't even know the guy's name. You know Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, and can kind of identify their situations a little bit better, even though, of course, the media mischaracterized each situation. And again, they did it here, but it caused more destruction than the prior events of note. And this guy had a rap sheet that was just ridiculous, and then he had just had spinal surgery, from what I understand, right? Did you guys read this too?
No, I don't think he had spinal surgery. He had back issues. But I think one important thing to point out is that most of this guy's rap sheet were nonviolent drug offenses.
Oh, here we go, Billy. Here we go. Here we go.
Well, I think this is a good thing to point out is, I see a lot of people in the media trying to offer up some simple solutions to an extremely complex problem in Baltimore. I mean, you're talking generational problems. You're talking generational poverty. You're talking, a welfare system that hasn't lifted people out of welfare, but actually kept people in welfare. You're talking about a war on drugs that hasn't helped people get off of drugs. It's kept people on drugs. So war on drugs is an escalation from day one that we've been fighting it. So we escalate. When we design policy, we've designed policy really to escalate situations instead of de-escalate situations. And I think that's what some people are starting to be made aware of in Baltimore, which has been going on for decades.
So what kind of non-violent drug charges? Like he got caught selling pot to guys at Dave Matthews concerts, or he was selling heroin?
Cocaine is what I read.
I just read the article that it was drug offenses. I don't specifically know what they were or what it entailed.
I mean, I understand your point with the war on drugs, Billy. There's a lot of aspects to that I'm sure that we agree on and we disagree on. But like to me, I think there's a huge difference between like selling dime bags of weed and somebody selling heroin or cocaine or crack or meth. I mean, I don't even really put those two things in the same category. That's just a personal observation at my point.
Well, you got to understand, I completely disagree with the war on drugs. That doesn't mean I approve of drugs. There's a huge difference. I recognize that fighting the war has caused far more destruction than the benefit we've gotten out of it. I mean, it's ridiculous. The war on drugs has led to the largest organized crime networks this world has ever seen. Organized crime networks that, if you could rank them to world corporations, they would be some of the biggest corporations in the world. And those cartels are right across the border in Mexico and in every major city in the United States. We've ignored this for decades, and it's, I think, probably the number one problem when it comes to crime in this country. The chief of police in Baltimore said 90% of the murders in Baltimore are gang-related, gangs fighting over turf. He stopped right there. Why are gangs fighting over turf? Why is the turf valuable? The turf is valuable because that's where they sell their drugs. But he stopped there. No one wants to address this issue on a local level, on a state level, on a national level. And it's right in front of our face, and we continue to ignore it. And, it's been my position for a long time.
Location, location, location. So a Baltimore Sun reporter saved from the mob by a store owner armed with a shotgun. And interesting enough, this Baltimore Sun reporter was going around, this area being protected by one of the gangs.
I wonder how much you paid him. But yeah, no, it's interesting that, he finally finds actual retreat and safety with a guy protecting his business with a shotgun. This is no surprise to any of us on this panel.
I like to think the shotgun was an AA-12.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a full auto shotgun.
Oh, all right,
It's like the most ridiculous shotgun in the world.
So I'm thinking in Baltimore, probably not, but that would be a great scene in a movie.
Like Predators.
And then the last companion story I have here is Baltimore reaps what Police Chief James Johnson didn't sow, and it brings us back to a time after Sandy Hook where on TV there was, I guess, a panel with Wayne LaPierre on it, and LaPierre was basically misquoted that we as Second Amendment supporters want guns to protect ourselves from the police. And but the one thing Wayne brought up in this interview was that people own guns, that when natural disasters happen and everything, that public services go down, police are too busy to help you, basically. And
also they're incapacitated themselves, right? I mean, they're the citizens as well. So it's not like they can, I remember going and talking to LAPD and talking with them about how they are going to deal with, specifically they were talking about a Mumbai-style attack, but this applies to a Baltimore situation or, major earthquake, whatever it is. And, they recognize the fact that police will be immobilized, and their communications may be down or whatever. So what they do is they go and they train them to, find a group of 4 people together, and they move in a diamond shape, and anybody can be any member of that diamond shape, moving through clearing houses, neighborhoods, whatever they have to do. But, the police are thinking about this. But we need to be thinking about this too. We do have to defend ourselves when the police can't.
Well,
Anyway, sorry, I totally interrupted you.
That happened during Katrina, where
Yeah,
there's
they took
a lot
away
of
all the
cops.
guns.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, not just that aspect, but a lot of the first responders had to choose between going to work and trying to save other people's families and going home and saving their own. And they like, hey, I can always get another job. I can't get another family. So they went home, they abandoned their posts and took care of their families, which I would probably do the same in that situation.
Can't fault
So
them.
if there's no more first responders to protect me, right, because that's what cops are there for, to protect me, right, according to a lot of people, then that's like the worst time to not be able to have guns.
And so this Baltimore situation, Floppy here back then, he mentioned mobs or riots, something to that effect. But, this Baltimore situation right now, it doesn't have to be a natural disaster. It could be just craziness. Like,
Turn the power off for 3 days and see what happens.
That's right.
It could.
That's all you're talking about. Turn the power off in any major city in this country for 3 days and find out what happens.
Ooh.
That is why I do not live in Chicago. So, Aurora Theater victims' family may pay $280,000 in the Lucky Gunner lawsuit. So there was a group of victims of the Aurora, Colorado theater shooting that they sued Lucky Gunner, Sportsman's Guide, and I think another company or two for supplying ammunition to the shooter. Well, the court threw that out, and now they're ordered. Those families are ordered to pay the legal fees and other damages to. Lucky Gunner is a big one here. They're requesting $151,000, and then Sportsman's Guide is requesting $73,000, and then there's another smaller company that's $23,000, then $33,000. So, what do you guys think about this? It
tells me lawyers are expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam. I feel like Adam should challenge.
Yeah, Adam should definitely take the lead on this.
So, it really is unfortunate. Sandy Hook was a tragedy. You have these families who lost their children, which is a traumatic experience. Then along comes the Brady campaign and some others, and maybe these families truly did think that suing these companies was a good idea, or maybe the Brady campaign said, hey, you know what would be a good idea? Why don't we sue these companies to prevent this from happening again, or fed them some other lines that induced them to go along with it. What the Brady campaign probably didn't tell them was that if you lose, you may have to pay, and you're probably going to have to pay for it yourself. So now these families have lost a child, gone through this horrible experience, been dragged through litigation, and now the Brady campaign is, here you go, here's the bill. Because the article says at the bottom of it that the Brady campaign declined Guns.com's request for comment about paying court costs and the dismissal. So I'm inclined to believe that the Brady campaign is not going to offer any money to it. And the part of the law that controls this is the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms, which was put into law in 2005. The purpose of this chapter follows to prohibit causes of action against manufacturers, distributors, dealers, and importers of firearms or ammunition products and their trade associations for harm solely caused by the criminal or unlawful misuse of firearms products or ammunition products by others when the product function as designed and intended. So the idea behind this law is that if a criminal commits a crime utilizing a firearm or ammunition, the family can't sue the manufacturer for the misuse of it. And then in the definition section, there's another section that says a qualified civil liability action may not be brought in any federal court or state court. And then it says the term qualified civil liability action means a civil action or proceeding or administrative proceeding brought by any person against a manufacturer or a seller of a qualified product which they define elsewhere, or a trade association for damages, punitive damages, injunctive or declaratory relief, abatement, restitution, fines or penalties, or other relief resulting from the criminal or unlawful misuse of the qualified product by the person or third party, but shall not include and give some exemptions which do not apply to the situation. So there was a law that says...
So they broke the law in filing the suit.
Well, they didn't break the law necessarily in filing the suit as much as the law says that you're not going to recover damages. So it was kind of just I guess they were swinging in the dark hoping to hit something. But what's really unfortunate is now you have these families, like I said, who lost their kids, went through this horrible traumatic experience, and now are going to get stuck with a legal bill that's close to $250,000 or more, depending upon what the other guys throw into that.
Seeing how the Brady campaign is so heavily based on lies, it wouldn't be surprising to me if they went up to those families and just sold them a big crock to get them on board and then left them hanging in the breeze in the end. I mean, that's pretty much par for the course for those people.
Wow. Victimized twice. Those poor people.
With that bill on the books, why would an attorney even try to take this suit, Adam? I mean, why?
Yeah.
You live in America. You can sue anybody for anything, whether or not you'll prevail and whether or not there will be some kind of sanctions imposed by the court or the other attorney will seek in sanctions is an entirely different story. But I could sue you in theory for looking at me in a funny way. Will it go anywhere? Probably not. And is it going to be But especially with something like that, yeah, absolutely. I could see an attorney looking at it and saying, yeah, I think we might have something here.
So they were just rolling the dice and hoping that they'd get a sympathetic judge.
I don't know. I don't know what the Brady campaign strategy is. It's entirely possible that they sat down and said, look, this is a very real possibility, and these are what you're facing. Do you want to continue with it? I would think that would, the ethical rules would certainly require an attorney to, I would imagine, explain that, these are potential options, not this is going to be a home run, don't worry about it, because nothing's ever guaranteed. Even when a hearing goes well and the judges, they listen to you, and there's nothing that's guaranteed. You could walk out of there feeling like $1 million and that you hit everything on the head, and then you get an opinion that's just way different than what you had thought.
Maybe part of it, I mean, with Jim and Sarah Brady both being dead now, I mean, the only thing that keeps the Brady campaign going forward is by staying in the news one way or the other. Maybe it's just a case of, they didn't expect to win it, but staying in the press is good enough for them. That's what they gained out of it.
Well, and then they're just not there. They've been really pushed to the back seat by Bloomberg.
Yeah.
In every town and Moms Demand Action. I mean, everybody's a lot of people at least have forgotten about the Brady campaign. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing to notice too, the Brady campaign uses, their rhetoric is completely different than every town. Brady campaign's kind of like, I think, in the, examining their strategies, they're very toned down. They tend to be very careful in what they say versus, every town and Moms Demand Action, which is just like,
I'd agree with you, Billy. I mean, in comparison to how they were before there's these other special interest groups like, Moms Demand Action and whatnot, I think they have toned it down. They are taking a different approach in comparison to their brethren. So,
especially Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. I mean, they're off the charts.
So, speaking of Moms Demand Action, an elderly man was being beaten in a parking lot, but it all came to a grinding halt after they noticed a concealed carry holder, and this happened in a Kroger parking lot. That's right, the store that Moms Demand Action has relentlessly been trying to get them to, put up no gun signs. And
they've now moved on to the phase of punishing Kroger for not budging on their policies when it comes to firearms.
Let's take a moment to appreciate the irony, and let's move on.
Bully.
I did a video like a year and a half ago about that the new war was going to be waged in the marketplace, and I got criticized by a lot of people because they're like, well, it's business's choice. I'm like, well, absolutely, it's business's choice to decide what they want to do. That's not the point. But what you're seeing is because we can't win in the courts, So now we're going to go to the marketplace and we're going to start to shame businesses. We're going to go after companies like Amazon to get products removed. We're going to attack the marketplace and get the marketplace to then shove gun owners and gun-related products into the shadows. And it's a great strategy. I mean, it is. It's kind of like a last-ditch effort.
But it's working.
It's just, to some people it is working, right? I think it's awesome that Kroger has stood up and said, "Whoa, if it's legal in our store," and that's pretty cool of them.
Yeah, and they've done it more than once. It's not like the case of Starbucks where they did it once and then they turned around and said, "Well, maybe not."
And they didn't, honestly, in the end, they didn't really say anything. We request that you don't bring your guns in our store, but it's not on their door. It doesn't say. I mean, they don't have the proper language on their door that says no guns.
It's like we discussed in one of the previous shows. Everybody turned it into Starbucks supports our side.
Yeah.
It wasn't Starbucks, you know, if it's legal, it's fine, and that's the end of it. It was, oh, well, they support us because they said this, and now they're saying you can't have guns, so they must support us. And Starbucks, we just want to sell coffee and, you know, delicious treats to people. We don't really care what side you're on. Just give us your money. It's still green.
So, rogue Silk Road DEA agent arrested with a go bag and 9mm pistol. So this is going through prosecution right now. This guy, Carl Mark Force, a former Drug Enforcement Administration agent who allegedly went rogue during the investigation of Silk Road founder Ross Ulbricht. They're not going to grant him bail, but this is a really interesting story about how this, because it involves Bitcoin and these other, you know, online currencies or whatever. I don't know. That's not the proper term, but cryptocurrencies, and how apparently this agent was really delving deep into this, and so far deep that he started to skim some of these currency, you know, some money off the top of some transactions that he was investigating, where he like opened a bank account in Panama, and he had another offshore account, I believe, too. But it's almost like a script to a movie when you read through this. And
somebody probably already has the rights.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, the whole Silk Road thing, that is going to make a great movie. Like the whole story behind that, and how the guy was running it from the coffee shop in San Francisco. Like
the title's there. It's got a great title already.
Yeah. I mean, it has Hollywood written on. Now we have an FBI agent or DEA agent involved. I mean, come on, it's just writing itself.
Yeah, it's like Argo style. It's good.
I hope they get The Rock. Or Dwayne Johnson. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one of the two, right?
I think I like The Rock better, but you know.
I'd like both of them. Come on.
Yeah.
So
which one was in Fast 7? Because he was pretty hilarious.
That's Vin Diesel.
Can you imagine? Because Vin Diesel is tiny, right? I mean, and then The Rock is like massive. And I heard actually the Hollywood gossip is they have this huge rivalry, and they actually have to throw the same amount of punches as one another. It's in their contracts. Like their agents negotiated that in the fight scenes they have to throw the same amount of punches.
Like,
that does not apply to guns. Apologies. But.
This fall, Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel team up for Silk Road.
And you just see him in front of a computer, like programming, right?
It's like these keys are too small. So
I'm going to get a Red Bull. You want one?
I'll take another Hot Pocket. So, yeah. So I encourage you guys to read through this Ars Technica article. It's pretty interesting. The other interesting thing, I mean, there's lots of weird stuff in here, but this guy's wife had received a tax refund for $150,000. How much
a lot of
money
money.
do you got to be moving around to get that kind of tax refund?
That's a lot of money to loan to the government interest free. I'll tell you what.
So,
Huh.
but yeah, apparently when they got this guy, he was ready to bail the country, they think, because he had a passport, the go bag and everything, and he had like 10 blank $500 money orders as well. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. So, Winchester recalls SXP shotguns. Select XP shotguns, not all of them. So there's a video here over on guns.com of a guy showing you how it discharges on closing the action.
Nice.
That's
that's a shotgun that's like slam firing when you close the action, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different videos going around right now for that. It's pretty crazy.
That could be a feature. You never know what they were thinking.
Wow. Yeah, that seems like there could be some potential issues there.
So if you do have one in the show notes here for this guns.com article, there is a 800 number, and you can actually email sxp@winchesterguns.com. Winchesterguns.com. Don't they own Winchester.com? Come on.
Yeah.
So,
They got to the online game late.
I didn't realize Winchester was making guns again. I thought they were.
Oh yeah, I was waiting for this. I was waiting for somebody to chime in with that because Chaos isn't here to do it. So.
Do we need to make fun of them for him? Is that what's happening?
I think. I mean, it's just like empty. If I need somebody to do it.
Who owns Winchester?
Not
right
that I
now?
agree because I like Winchester, but.
But like, who owns the brand? Like, who owns the company now?
I don't know.
Is it like a Freedom Group thing or no?
I don't think so. Oh yeah, maybe it is. Let's see.
Olin Corporation.
I'm just saying, like, if it's one of those things where like Winchester, the original Winchester, stopped making guns for a couple of years, they went out of business or sold out, and they haven't really produced anything, and now all of a sudden they start making guns again. There might be a problem just from that alone, just starting up production again, different engineers, different people.
So they were founded in
Maybe so.
1866 by Oliver Winchester. It says their predecessor was Volcanic Repeating Arms Company. What a cool name.
What?
That's a cool name, yeah.
Yeah, that's the Winchester Mystery House is in San Jose.
San Jose,
it's a California
pretty
company.
awesome.
Yeah, have you been?
Yeah.
Oh man, I really want to go to that.
Yeah, isn't there like there's like a string of like just mentally insane people in the Winchester family? Like the guy that built that house went crazy.
Yeah.
Like who's the dude that built the Spruce Goose?
Not Henry Ford, but Howard.
Howard Hughes. Yeah, like the Winchester family, eccentric, very rich, very crazy kind of thing back in the day.
Walk through that house and you'll
Aren't there like crazy trap doors and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
there's like secret passages and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
it's been so long since I've been there. But yeah, there's some squirrely thing. It's like I forgot. There's numbers. Like it was like everything had to be in 13s or 7s. There was something squirrely with it. And it was just like bizarre.
Well, and now it's basically a haunted house, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's haunted.
It's like
Isn't that why he continued to build additions onto it in the first place?
Yeah, it had something to do with it. It had something to do with like spirits or something, and had to keep building stuff. I don't know.
It's kind of like how Adam Kraut has to turn the light switch on and off 8 times before he leaves the room, or else his family die.
No, that's just OCD.
I haven't been doing that. Oh no.
Hey, I get stuck in the bathroom all the time because there's no paper towels, and I'm not going to touch the handle. So.
Oh.
Like when upon exit is what you're trying to say. It's just like,
Sure.
what? What's happening?
Remember, it's better not to have any paper towels than not to have any toilet paper. So.
Agreed.
One is much worse than the other.
Man,
I think we veered. I think we veered a little bit.
I'm trying to steer the ship here. New Jersey man denied a gun permit for a crime he didn't commit.
Sounds about right for New Jersey.
Yeah, nothing to see here. Behind enemy lines. Let's move on. Yeah. But no, I mean, just par for the course with New Jersey. I mean, when I was reading through this, I was like, okay, so this was his permit to allow him to buy a gun,
Right.
not the actual background check of buying the gun. It was the permit to allow you to buy it at a future date. I don't know. I don't know where to go with that.
It indicates apparently it indicates a public safety concern. Never mind the fact that you weren't convicted of a crime. So much for what? Being innocent until proven guilty?
Yeah.
Well, it just goes,
Unless you're a Clinton.
I like to think all the lawyers in New Jersey are like my cousin Vinny. That's why like nobody ever sticks up for these people. Like seriously, like where are the constitutional lawyers in New Jersey? Like it's like every week some crazy stories coming out of that state, and it's always infringing on somebody's rights.
There's a few, but the problem is that all the judges don't necessarily agree with constitutional rights. So
They don't like that whole Constitution thing that actually gave them their job. So
kind of gets in the way.
You got constitutional rights? You think you're better than me? Look at constitutional rights over here? Forget about it.
That felt a little more Brooklyn, I think.
North Jersey. He was from North Jersey.
Like Jersey City, whatever.
AK-12 adoption pushed back to 2016 rifle to be improved. So this is the new AK-47 replacement, the AK-12 rifle, which is slated to be adopted by the Russian Army was slated for late this year, but has been delayed in production until 2016.
I read that article. Listen, for any of the AK purists out there...
What are you talking about? We all read that article.
If you think even for a moment the Russians are going to adopt 6.5 Grendel, you're all terribly, terribly wrong. It's never going to happen. They might have developed their own 6.5, but it's not the 6.5 Grendel. The other thing is the Russians, this is actually uncharacteristic. To delay weapons program that's not 100%. A lot of times like he's good enough, move forward. But,
give it to the child.
Yeah, he's good enough for 5-year-old. Give, right? But no, for them.
That was a good accent. That one was good, Nate.
I had a Russian in my old platoon, and it's kind of like if you hang out with somebody with like an Irish brogue long enough, you start like picking up a little bit here and there. Yeah. But anyway, like the AK-12 program, something the Russians have been working on for a while, and it's essentially an updated platform, loosely based off the original AK-47 that's modernized with like mounting rails for accessories. I mean, if you look at what the Russians are carrying, particularly down like Chechnya or any of their conflict zones, you see a lot of Western influence on their AKs right now. So the AK-12 is a little bit more of an updated version of the AK. But if the Russians are delaying its adoption, that's something to note. So. Hey,
out of curiosity, what kind of Western influence are you seeing in those zones?
You're seeing a lot of red dot sites, particularly American-made red dot sites or clones of American red dot sites. So you're seeing things like EOTechs, aim points. You're seeing like Magpul furniture on some of their weapons. A lot of it's knockoff stuff. It's Chinese copies and Russian-produced copies of American products. Some of it, might be illegal ITAR stuff that somehow got smuggled in, or who knows where they got it from, eBay or something. But no, it's stuff like that. Mostly optics, lasers, accessories, and then. I mean, I did a study for an article a while back about this. Even the way the Russians are employing their weapons has changed greatly in the last couple of years. It's no longer the Russian hammer and sickle, like the brute force. They're a little bit more strategic and a little bit more surgical in how they're deploying their military units now. So it's very reminiscent of American or Western SF special forces groups. It's alarming to a lot of guys in the soft community here in America. So people are paying attention to it, not just James. So
who's training them, or are they just observing our tactics?
One guy sent the Magpul DVD over to Moscow, and it's just been going out of hand. It's gone out of hand. I mean, it's
dynamic.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a whole conversation for a different time.
They ripped up the VHS tapes and distributed it.
Actually, beta won out over there.
Not Laserdisc? What about Laserdisc?
So my speculation here is the real reason that's been pushed back is they can't order enough Magpul furniture from eBay to. So let's move on to Army seeks gun industry help on M4 carbine and tacit admission of rifles flaws. This is from WashingtonTimes.com, so it's not a gun,
source.
So yeah, it says Army is asking for the gun industry to build new components for its soldiers' primary weapon, the M4 carbine.
I have been following this very closely for a little while now because obviously, as somebody that makes aftermarket parts for rifles, the GripStop from B5 Systems, this is a great initiative, right? The Army keeps announcing programs we want a new rifle, and then everybody in the firearms industry scrambles, spends thousands or millions of dollars on R&D to build a gun in the confines of the solicitation from the Army, and then only for the Army to say, we changed our mind, we don't have the money for it right now. But thanks for showing up, guys, right? So essentially what this program is it's saying we're going to take aftermarket products or commercially available products, and we're gonna basically update the existing M4 and M4A1 carbines with these aftermarket parts. So essentially, what you're going to end up with is an issued M4 or an M4A1 that has parts that we all, as private citizens, are commonly putting on our guns already. Things like ambidextrous charge handles, ambidextrous safeties, enhanced pistol grips, enhanced butt stocks like the B5 SOCOM stock or Bravo stock. Things like the GripStop, that's barrier stop. It has multiple purposes and helps a lot of different people. Enhanced flash hiders. So basically, when it's all said and done, the only thing that's going to still be original M4 will be the receiver, the upper and lower receiver, the internal parts, and probably just the barrel. It's going to be a huge step forward for the warfighter. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to help out a lot of people if the Army actually sees it all the way through.
We'll see. Like you said, they do like to pull back at the last minute on pretty much everything they do.
They do.
So, 7th Circuit Court rules assault weapons ban okay. Their ruling is based on feelings. Yeah.
Go, Adam. 7th Circuit. That's all you.
Well, usually I'm used to talking about the 9th Circus, but I guess today it's going to be the 7th Circus. I don't know. That just seems. I pulled up the opinion real quick, and quite honestly, I didn't read through it all. And I'm looking at the quote where it comes from, and it just. I don't get it. Like, how can you possibly take a fundamental constitutional right and then say if banning semi-automatic guns and large capacity magazines reduces the perceived risk, doesn't even reduce the risk, just reduce the perceived risk and makes the public feel safer, that's a substantial benefit. I'm sorry. That is
I can't believe
I can't say the next word I was going to say.
It's basically how the TSA is, continuing to exist anyway. So, it's not surprising. But sorry, Billy, what?
No, I'm just saying I can't believe a judge wrote that. I mean, I was reading this and I kept reading it, and I didn't click on to read the whole opinion, but I don't even. I'm with Adam. I just don't even understand this. A perceived risk and makes the public feel safer as a result. That's a substantial benefit. Wow. I don't even know where to go with that. It's unbelievable. I'd say it's going to be overturned. Wouldn't you, Adam?
I don't know, because I haven't read the whole opinion. I mean, you got to understand looks like an 11-page, 14-page opinion. You got to understand that's just a little snippet. So for all I know, that's just a little bit of dicta that guy threw in there that has no bearing on what the actual decision was based on. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to really read through it. I would assume that was cherry picked out of there to some degree for any number of reasons, but until I actually sit down and read it, I can't tell you whether or not that's the basis for the decision. If it is, it really is embarrassing at best.
Emotionally, I feel very strongly that it won't get very far. So.
Well, Well, and we're basing everything on feelings, so we can go with that.
Well, I feel
I don't appreciate that tone, Natalie. You hurt my feelings.
I feel like we should move on. Ohio man has negligent discharge in a bathroom, and yes, we're not to the full auto section yet, but I thought this brings up some good everyday concealed carry conundrums that some of us may face. So a man suffered minor injuries when he accidentally shot himself Tuesday at a Chick-fil-A. The 45-year-old man was basically pulling up his pants and accidentally discharged the bullet grazed his legs. And the man did have a concealed carry license for the Glock pistol that he was carrying. So it sounds like he put his booker hook in the trigger and it went bang when he pulled up his pants.
Two questions though. Was the gun in a holster? And
that's what I want to know. Yeah.
If it wasn't in the holster, why wasn't it in the holster? That's like, it's something that, well, I don't know what kind of journalism this is, but that's a pretty important fact.
There's a lot of different scenarios for this. Like the FBI had a problem with this years ago, where like those windbreaker jackets they have. Well, they have these little plastic pull tabs with elastic waistline, and agents were reholstering their gun. And that little plastic pull tab would work its way in the trigger guard as they would reholster into a holster, and basically get trapped and then initiate the trigger and fire. They would have NDs as they reholstered, right? All because of the garment they're wearing. So I mean, it's one of those things where like an ND is an ND. Right, like you did something screwed up, or you didn't do due diligence, you didn't monitor your reholstering, or I mean, there's a lot of different variables to go into this, other than like everybody immediately dismissing the guy as, oh, he was an idiot, and he was carrying around the chamber without a holster. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So as much as I want to immediately jump on the bandwagon of like this guy just didn't know what he was doing, it was probably avoidable, but we don't know all the details.
I do, however, believe that all of this could have been avoided with a bra holster. Just saying.
I'm looking at the guy's photo, and Natalie, it probably wouldn't fit.
So
he would definitely print.
So yeah, a lot of it depends. Whatever your carry method is, sticky holsters come to mind. That's something that you're gonna have to do something with that. It's not gonna, as soon as you release your pants, it's not gonna stay there. You're gonna have to find a place to set that. You're gonna have to remember to pick it up when you're done.
The bad thing is, like, a lot of people, like, if they go to they go to a public bathroom to do some paperwork, so this sit down kind of visit. A lot of people have the habit of taking their pistol out of the holster and putting it on top of the toilet paper rack, or sitting on. No, like, this is legitimate. A lot of people do this,
That's the first
right?
comment on the bottom of the article. I was going to say that, but you beat me to it. If you read the comments, that's the first one.
Right. So the thing is, like, I'm an advocate of having a system, whatever holster system you use, regardless if you carry, strong side appendix, or you carry on, kidney carry, like classic, belt mounted, that you have a system that you can leave your gun in the holster while you're doing that paperwork. But if you're pulling the gun out, you're putting it, like, one, you could potentially forget the gun in the stall. Two, you could screw it up as you reholster and you have an ND in the fashion that this guy did. There's a lot of variables that go into it once again. But
there's several cases where several officers took their guns out of their holsters in the stalls, and then they leave them on top of the toilet paper holder.
Right.
And someone else comes in 10 minutes later and finds it. There was been a couple cases like in the last year of that happening.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is leaving your gun in the holster and having a system where you can leave in the holster is how you avoid this.
Right.
Once you put one in the pipe, honestly, and you put the gun in the holster, my philosophy is you shouldn't be taking it out of the holster until you're either, one, going to use it, or two, you're at home and you're making it safe. I mean, occasionally, every now and then, you'll run into someone at the gun store and they're taking their gun out of their holster and showing someone. I'm like, if there's one in the chamber, why are you doing that? Mm-hmm. There's no reason to be doing that, in my opinion.
Oh, wow. That would get you tossed where I work real quick. It would see you. The question, or I think what a lot of people say when they're going to do some paperwork, their concern is that, somebody will see the gun sitting in the holster on the floor, so they take it out and they put it inside their pants while it's, on the floor while they're doing their paperwork. What I want to know is, are you in the bathroom stall inspecting underneath the stall to see what the person next to you is doing? Because why on earth would, even if the person looked over and saw it, why do you care? How do they not, how do they know that maybe you're not a cop? What are they going to do, run out after they're done their paperwork and tell somebody?
Somebody walks by and sees it down there by your boots, and they're like, dude, that is a nice Glock. Are those the new Frank Proctor sights? Man, that's nice.
So I have solved the issue of people being able to see it when your pants are down. All you have to do is pull your underwear over the grip, and then it's concealed.
Or you could just not worry about it because you didn't do anything wrong.
Or you could use a bra holster.
It chafes. I've tried it. So when I was at the NRA show, I did some paperwork, and an officer used the stall next to me and did some paperwork as well. And he took his whole duty belt. I suppose you have to all the way off.
Oh my gosh, really?
And he put it on the ground. He put the duty belt and gun and everything on the ground.
That just doesn't seem sanitary.
No.
I just can't believe you're calling it a duty belt.
Hey, for the record, the paperwork thing is not my expression. I shamelessly stole that from Matt Jacques of Victory First. That's his expression for going number 2 in a public place. And believe it or not, I've had a couple conversations about this with that gentleman about this exact subject. So, doing paperwork.
I'm just really stoked that this is one area where I don't really have to worry about it like you guys do.
That's because you can't carry a gun where you live, so.
Well, there is that, although I'm working on that. But, yeah, actually, we'll need to talk about that sidebar later, Adam. We need to talk about the logistics legally, but yes, it is nice, I will say. Not a big fan of purse carry, but what about a briefcase? I mean, I guess, yeah.
That's even a briefcase is even worse than purse carry.
I know.
Unless you have the MP5 briefcase, in which case best briefcase.
That's like a $25,000 briefcase without the gun.
The briefcase, I think I saw one sell for $2. The gun is a whole different problem, though.
Well, as long as you have it handcuffed to your wrist, you'll be good. So, Amazon, you can now contribute to the Firearms Radio Network every time you shop Amazon, and a small portion goes to This Week in Guns. Support Pro Gun Radio by going to firearmsradio.tv/Amazon, and you can order, the Looming Tower.
Yes.
Al-Qaeda on the Road to 9/11. Natalie just recommended this book. You want to give it a quick plug here?
Oh my gosh, it is the most impactful book I've read in a very long time, because I think our generation really understands radical Islam to be something that it really is not. A lot of people that I have conversations with who haven't been deployed like Nate has, they don't understand the origins. They think that this is just their culture, and this is how it's always been for hundreds of years. And what I've learned through the Looming Tower is it's not true. It really, the origin started in the 30s and 40s, and really, metastasized in the 90s and 80s, but really in the 90s. And I mean, it's a new thing that has happened within our lifetime, and we really need to understand it to be able to, as a society, be able to combat it on the home front. Have a different mentality about it, I think.
Obviously, I have some opinions, so I'm definitely going to read this book now. Because
you're going to love it. You're going to love it.
I did not know that jihad and beheadings didn't exist before the 1930s, so I'm definitely going to read this book.
Okay, so yes, beheadings definitely did. You're right, but I'm talking about more like kind of the the burqa hijab thing that didn't exist in Kabul before before the 80s. I mean, there were women who looked like Jackie Kennedy back in the day, in Kandahar and Kabul instead of what they look like now, unfortunately. So
a lot. It talks a lot about subjugating women and and that kind of stuff in
I mean,
modern
sure,
era.
that's part of it, but it's certainly not the focus. It's more about the characters and the players who have, who have influenced all of this and how it's radicalized and the geopolitics that have gone into, like why Bin Laden hated us so much, and it really comes down to Saddam Hussein, and obviously other factors as well. But it's really fascinating. I think, I've just gained an education that I never could have otherwise, because we live in such a talking points, 30-second soundbite, if that, society, that it's really important, I think, to dive into this, because this is a major influencer on our, the way we're going to live the rest of our lives. So it's just good to know.
Yeah, I mean, from what you were saying before the show started, it sounds very interesting. I'm definitely going to pick up a copy myself, just because it sounds like a very thorough and different perspective than what, like you said, than what we see on television and what we hear in the media.
Absolutely. So. And the other cool thing about it too is that the author who wrote it is the same guy. I think I don't want to screw this up, but I'm pretty sure that it's Lawrence Wright. So he also wrote this book that Going Clear, the new Scientology documentary, was based on. And so he knows how to really write these books on very, dare I say, nefarious institutions in our society. So I highly recommend it.
All right, I just picked it up. I had 3 Audible credits, so I got the audio version.
Yeah, you're going to love it.
All right, we are to the full auto news segment, stories the real media won't talk about, and other crazy stuff. So this is where we each pick a story to call our own and share with you guys listening. So who's ready to go?
Ready? I can start.
Set, go, Natalie.
Okay, I'm going with the AK. The girl, Alaska girl, downs a grizzly during the day,
awesome.
and attends prom that night. And then, of course, in her prom dress, she's holding her rifle that she took the bear with. I mean, it's just
a grizzly
amazing.
Bear.
Yeah, a grizzly, right. So she's 15 years old. And she bagged her first grizzly. And I don't know, I mean, especially with all the heat that female hunters have been catching in recent years, but it's really, really kind of become almost a conflagration recently, in recent months. And I love that female hunters are going, sorry, screw you guys, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to hunting, and we're going to do it anyway. We understand that we're doing more for the environment than any environmental group or anything like that. So I don't know, this made me very proud. I thought this was pretty cool.
Last line is, it was her first bear and her first prom.
Go girl. I wonder what she's going to get next year.
Very cool. Who's next?
I'll take the next one there, Jake.
Right. Go ahead.
There's this article, outstanding Afghani war veteran finds nasty note on his car. So this was kind of a kick in the throat for me reading this. So a gentleman goes out to his vehicle and he finds this note saying a lot of really nasty, terrible things. Basically, saying that he's a bad person for having served. So I'm guessing that it's one of those things where he had like a sticker or something on his vehicle, or something that identified him as a veteran, and somebody took it upon themselves to handwrite a note to ruin his day, and saying that they hope that he can watch his own family starve and suffer, like he helped these poor people in Afghanistan suffer. It's a really, really terrible thing, but the same gentleman actually has a foundation or a charity that he created that's doing positive stuff, and part of the positivity, or what he's trying to do, is when we leave a country, I guess you could say it's like a partisan or a contributor kind of thing, where the Afghanis, or in the case of Iraq, the people that helped us when we were in that country, when we leave that country, if it goes back to, if it turns negative, those people that helped us, they're often killed, they're often murdered. I've lost personal friends overseas that were translators in country, and they were a target, to the Mujahideen, to the extremist Islamic threat in the country, and a couple of them were murdered for helping the Americans. So this gentleman's foundation, or his cause, is to help get people out of Afghanistan that are at risk. So here it is, this nasty note left for him saying that he's a bad person for having served his country and fought in Afghanistan, and they don't have a clue what he's doing. He's doing good stuff. So this kind of shows the small-minded, nearsighted nonsense that a lot of people get caught up in.
I'm so glad you chose this one, Nate, and I knew that you would. I was waiting for you to choose it. But this is a frustration of mine as well because, I know we've talked about this previously. I think, Nate and Adam and I have talked about this, but it's a frustration for me because, with all of the controversy about, like, American Sniper, for instance, on these campuses, I know Michigan was one of them, right, Billy, where, these people are saying that it's an anti-Muslim film when you've got people like Chris Kyle and you, Nate, and so many others who actually are not only, protecting Americans overseas, but also defending peace-loving Muslims, and they completely misunderstand what's happening. And I don't understand how you can.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
It's not fair to put me in the same category as Chris Kyle. I'm just a dude to serve my country, for about a decade. But the thing is, yeah, I know what you're saying with that. Like, it's the negativity. Like, my Uncle John was a Marine in Vietnam. When he came home, the first 5 minutes of being back in America, there's a dude waiting at the airport to call him a baby killer and spit in his face. And, 2 days before that, he was out on patrol, out in the jungles of Vietnam. So he did the appropriate thing. He broke that hippie's arm and he got arrested. So the cop started taking him down to the station. And he's like, "Yeah, where are you headed?" He's like, I'm going home. I'm done." He's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to take you to the station. I'm gonna take you somewhere else. I'm not arresting you, right?" But the thing is like, I had a personal friend. This kid his name was Marcel. He was 1 week younger than me. He was my same age in 2004, and he was an interpreter. And he was murdered while visiting his family back home in Baghdad. So here's a guy who's a great guy. He believed in the new Iraq. He believed in rebuilding the country. And he was murdered for it. So the thing was, if Marcel wouldn't have been murdered in 2004 and he would have stayed one of those people helping rebuild this country into what it very easily could be, then there's no reason Iraq can't be a modern civilized Arab nation like Kuwait, which borders it, or I would even dare say Saudi Arabia. They have the means to do it if they want it. It's just, so we leave in 2010, what would have happened to Marcel today with ISIS taking control? They would have murdered him then. It would have staved off his execution is really what it would have been. So, here's this gentleman who's trying to help good Afghanis, and there's other people out there doing stuff like that, trying to bring industry and business and help the Afghani people, because it's inevitable we're going to abandon that country like we abandoned Iraq. And, I hate to say it, but it's going to be even worse for Afghanistan when we abandon it than it even is in Iraq. That's my opinion on it. But the moral of the story is people don't know what an individual soldier, sailor, Marine, airman, whatever has been through, and for somebody to leave a note that's that derogatory. All I gotta say is I'm happy I read this story earlier in the day before the show started, because I was like, what the timestamp is this nonsense right here? Okay. If I wouldn't have had some cooling down time, I'd be a little bit more angry and passionate with my comments right now. But
doing paperwork and what the timestamp. I've got a couple good ones for you.
So.
All right. Billy, what do you have?
The buffalo. So, I don't know if you guys saw the story, but it was a couple days ago or last week, the 15 buffalo that got loose on the New York farm. And the farmer said that they were wild animals. They were not tame. Well, there's some buffalo down by us here, and I'm not I'm super experienced with buffalo, but I've never really met a tame buffalo. Like most buffalo I've seen, you don't want to get in the gated area with them, right? They're going to run you over. Which I thought was really interesting, that they didn't have any trucks available to try to capture the animals or anything. So the police decided to hire hunters, and I should be hunters, to shoot the animals, and it turned out to be an absolute circus. The cops got in altercations with the hired hunters because a couple of them were only injured, and they were trying to shoot the additional buffalo before they got away, and the cops wanted them to obviously kill the buffaloes they had injured, so they weren't going to suffer. The whole thing seems like an absolute debacle. And what's interesting here, like down the road from me, we hear all the time animals getting out and crossing the highway. Buffalo have got out around here all the time. I've never heard of one situation to where they've actually had to go and shoot all the animals. It's just really, it seems like an absolutely bizarre case. But what I find interesting, that the cops hired hunters. Why didn't the police shoot them?
Well, first off, have you ever seen your average cop shoot a gun? You would understand why they hired hunters.
Have you seen your average hunter?
Yeah, in rural areas, though. I mean, I've lived, the last 6 years in rural areas, and I've seen cops all the time take their rifles out of the car and shoot a deer that's injured. So it's not unusual in rural areas. This was not New York City.
Well, it's like they're down at Valley Forge, down near Adam, Valley Forge Park. It's a huge tourist site, but they have a problem. There's a lot of roads that go through Valley Forge, and there's a lot of deer because it's a very wooded area. So I think the Park Service actually, I'm not sure if they still do it, but they contract out hunters to come in and hunt those deer at night when the park's empty. Otherwise, every day you'd have another vehicle accident where a tourist runs over a deer just because there's the sheer volume of deer. So it's like a population control thing. So you would say, like, well, why do they hire this additional outside contractor to come do the service for them? Why don't the Park Service just do it themselves? And it's probably either just a manpower thing or they don't have the proper equipment. Like, I'm not going to go try to kill a buffalo with a 5.56 AR-15, And odds are that department only has guns like that. I seriously doubt they have, a 45-70 Sharps to go hunt buffalo with.
Well, you should watch the video, and then you should see some of the still images of, I don't know who it is. I think it's a lieutenant here yelling at one of these hunters. The whole thing just seems like the Three Stooges. And I just want to say to that farmer, if you cannot gather your animals up when they break through your fence, you might want to reconsider your career.
I grew up on a dairy farm, and there's a difference between getting old Bessie the milk cow back into the gate and trying to get a buffalo to do what you want it to. So
exactly, there is, and that's why you should be prepared to deal with your buffalo. And I think it's just a little debacle on the farmer's part.
I want to know what they did with the meat and the hides.
Oh, I'm sure it was all processed. They're not going to let 15 buffalo go to waste. If they did, wow, that would be
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I can't imagine that they. I'm sure they had them processed right away. At least I would hope. The article doesn't state that.
Yeah.
They were first going to try to use tranquilizers. They're like, yeah, that's not going to work.
So it says they can run up to 40 miles per hour. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But the tranquilizer thing, though, I question that because you can tranquilize a rhino. So it makes me go,
to me, this is like the equivalent of why didn't the cop just shoot the guy in the kneecap? Or why did they just shoot the gun? Have you ever seen a buffalo in person? They are formidable, huge animals.
I know.
You wouldn't even like Robert Downey Jr. levels of tranquilizers to take one of those things down. Like all the tranquilizer.
Okay, but again, they do it for rhinos all the time. Like all the time. I'm like, get it.
But I'm sure they're prepared, like a nature preserve, they're prepared with those types of tranquilizers for those animals. This is some farm out in the middle of, rural New Mexico or New York. I'm sure they didn't have like tranquilizers on hand.
Well, I bet
it sounds like a laundry list of failure from start to end. It sounds like every party involved made mistakes and people screwed it up. It could have been handled a lot better, and they failed miserably.
I would like to be at that city council meeting in this little village, this week after everybody's saying, how the hell did that happen?
Mistakes were made, buffalo were killed. So, Adam, what do you have?
I chose the article, Missouri students rally for teen hunter facing expulsion for shotgun in truck. Unfortunately, and I wasn't alive anyway when you used to be able to bring guns to school because it was socially acceptable and possibly even encouraged. But anyway, this kid, 18-year-old, was suspended from high school in rural rural Missouri over having his disassembled turkey gun in his truck. He had gone hunting that morning, apparently shot a bird, took a picture of it, posted it on Facebook, forgetting his unloaded and disassembled shotgun in its case beneath the seat of his truck. And then some anonymous caller called the school later that day. They approached the student, asked him if he had a firearm, and he didn't say, yeah, I'm not going to answer that question. He admitted to it. So he was suspended for 10 days, faces expulsion for violating the district's firearms ban. And this is exactly why, by the way, zero tolerance is stupid. It's just an awful policy. There's absolutely no discretion that these administrators can have when dealing with a situation like this. It was unloaded, it was disassembled, it was in his car, and there's social media evidence that he was hunting that morning, that he had no ill intent. So it's really
I used to do the same thing as a kid. When I was a kid, I used to go out and bird hunt in the morning before I go into school. But, maybe just being a little bit more conscious of the law and the changing world that I lived in the mid-'90s, I would park off school property. I knew the school's policy, and I knew that I'd roll the dice if I parked, on school property. So I secured my gun. I locked it up in a gun case. I followed state and federal law, and I would go to school, parked off school property with my gun there. So the thing is, you think about Adam, you just said, well, not in my lifetime. There's still places in America, like when I was growing up in the 90s, where you still saw rifle racks in the back of pickup trucks. Especially out west, more rural places where people weren't scared of guns yet. I'm pretty sure that you can go up to certain places in Alaska right now, and you'll still find students, high school students with guns in their vehicle. Not that I'm throwing those guys under the bus, but it's a cultural thing. It's a lifestyle thing. It's a survival thing in the case of Alaskans. This is one of those things that somebody had a bone to pick with this kid, and they threw him under a bus. And I'm guessing that this young gentleman, made a habit of having a shotgun in his vehicle to go hunt in the morning, like probably many other people across America do. Unfortunately, he got burned for it. So
yeah, a lot of kids I went to high school with had their rifles and their shotguns in their cars, and because they go hunting after school, and there's never a problem. Everybody had a knife. There was never a problem. So.
I had an incident. I had an incident when I was in high school, and my mom and I had been on a road trip together, and of course we had her revolver in the car, and went to school the next day and totally forgot about it, and then realized it about midday. Well, after lunch sometime, and I absolutely could have been expelled, and I was, I was in student council and the whole thing, and it would have looked terrible, and this was right after Columbine had happened too, so. I feel for this kid because he clearly wasn't doing anything intentional, and how many other kids would have done exactly the same thing? It's just I totally agree with the zero tolerance policy. It's ridiculous. I agree with you, Adam, that the zero tolerance policy is ridiculous.
When I was a little boy, I found my my Boy Scout pocket knife in my backpack, right? Because I used that bag over the weekend for a Boy Scout outing, and I forgot my pocket knife in it. So I did the right thing, and I turned myself in. And I think I was in 6th grade, 5th or 6th grade when it happened. So the exact same thing happened a couple years later, before I got my Eagle Scout. And I'm like, well, if they made this big of a deal a couple years ago when I was in elementary school, I'm definitely not going to say anything now in middle school. The world has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I ever. Guns definitely not, but I don't know if I ever from Scouts went to school with a knife or not. It's very.
I'm just saying,
it's very possible I did the same thing a number of times.
Mistakes are made, but I just remember that oh my goodness, I just made a terrible mistake by not searching my bag. It's like if you go to the airport and TSA finds a loose round of 9mm in your bag because you're coming back from a pistol course. It's like the whole world explodes, it's a terrible thing, but it's to me, I think maybe it made me more conscious of how our country's changing, Yeah. It taught me a lesson, I know that.
It's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they don't go too hard on this poor kid. If it sounds like he did due diligence by breaking down his weapon, his disassemble, unloaded. I mean, really, that's all I ask of anybody. But he's still messed up by parking on school property, and somebody ratted him out. So
there was a case of another kid though brought his he was going to go play airsoft after school, and he had his airsoft rifle in his car. Did not park on school property, parked off of school property, and was still suspended.
What?
Yeah. I mean, this is what we've come to. It's just absolutely like someone, and it was exactly what you said, Nate. Like someone knew he had it in the car, and someone went and ratted on him, and even though it wasn't on school property, they still suspended him.
Yeah, let's go find these tattletales and
snitches and all that stuff.
All right, so I'm going to go with the Singapore Police non-lethal AR. I love the color, for one. It's black and orange. And, yeah, it's not exactly an AR.
It looks like my stroller.
What the heck of a magazine he's got there?
Really? Your stroller looks like an AR? That's weird.
Black and yellow.
Oh. So it
was a soft insult is what it was.
So it can fire paint rounds to mark certain rioters, which I find interesting. So, everyone disperses when cops start grabbing people. Everyone runs, but if you can mark them all first, maybe you can find them later.
They were doing that in Baltimore.
Were they?
Yes,
were they really?
They were marking some of the rioters with paintballs. Now, whether or not they actually found any of them at a later date, I do not know. But they were shooting paintball rounds.
Was it paintball or pepper balls?
They said they had both. They said I don't know if it was a combination of pepper and paint.
A little bit of both. Little column A, a little column B. FN makes a really great marker for that. They make a less lethal weapon. I guarantee that was the one they were using for that. But I mean, looking at the picture of the marker gun or whatever the Singapore police are using, it looks very similar to the UTM units we use in the military, which shoots like basically a neutered 9mm with a marking round. And having gotten shot with them, they are not pleasant. They hurt more than paintballs. And I want to be
like
surprised.
the simunition guns.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a form of simunition. But basically what it is, it's an upper receiver for an AR-15 that allows a guy to just swap one for one his lethal 5.56 upper for the UTM upper. I'm basing this off the magazine. The magazine looks almost exactly like a UTM magazine. So it shoots a 9mm with a plastic pellet that has a squib round of like paint, but you can fill that with other things too. You could probably put like pepper, OC spray type stuff inside it, but I mean, to me, I'm looking at this. I'm like, this isn't really news to me. There's plenty of other systems out there, like the FN1 that I mentioned. That's most likely what's being used in Baltimore. What's actually interesting, since we're talking about Baltimore a little bit tonight. So the Army they started a program a couple years ago to convert M4s and M4A1s because they realized finally that 3-round burst is just ridiculous. So I have my sources to tell me that people that are issued M4A1s had to put an adapter in their M4s before going down to Baltimore to limit them from having full auto capability on their gun. And then it was explained by the command that the reason why they're losing their full auto capability is that the media can't turn it into a negative thing, that the Maryland National Guard have full auto M4s. That no, it's semi-automatic, it's safe.
I think it's pretty evident that the media doesn't know the difference.
The fact that a unit would issue out adapters to convert full auto guns to semi-automatic guns just for a riot is hilarious to me. I got pictures and everything. It's crazy.
All right. Well, that brings us to Patreon. Patreon's an easy way for you to crowdfund shows like This Week in Guns. Go to patreon.com/week. I will be sending out some random battle boxes full of swag, including Amidst Clean Kits, Duluth Trading Company gift cards, GunGoddess.com gift cards, and Duke Cannon Supply Company military field box big-ass bricks of soap sets. So check it out this week, or patreon.com/week. We also have a Firearms Radio Network Patreon that you can support the network as a whole at patreon.com/FRN. Well, Nate, what's going on? GripStop, is that going to be releasing soon with B5?
Yeah, a small number of GripStops have been released out to a couple different companies. This is one of those things where like people always say like, well, I understand this, I understand that. Trying to bring something to market, there's always last minute things and unforeseen pitfalls that you can fall into, and unfortunately this is taking a little bit longer than I had perceived it taking. So hopefully here in the very near future we're going to be drowning in grip stops. Everywhere you turn you're going to see a grip stop, but it's just taking a little bit longer than I expected. But that's the nature of the firearms industry, so I'm not terribly concerned about it, aside from all the angry messages I get from people saying, dude, where's my grip stop? So otherwise everything's going well. I got a couple other projects in the works, so I can't complain.
Any new articles coming out anywhere?
I mean, there's a series I wrote about my trip to Alaska that's running on Breachbank Clear right now, and I'm going to have some stuff in Recoil coming up. It'll probably be the September issue. It'll probably everything with like magazines. It's a lot more difficult than doing web-based stuff, just because of like how much forward planning you have to do. Like if I wrote an article today, it won't be in a magazine for at least 3 to 6 months. So
Alaska. Did you shoot a grizzly and go to prom?
No. I got the chance to spend a month up there, and I fell in love with the country, and I just love that state so much. As soon as I make my fortune off grip stops, is a toss up between moving to Alaska or buying Murr Island. I don't know which I want to do more. So
man, as a business owner, the sooner you get to Alaska, the better. No income tax and no sales tax.
It's true. It's very, very, very appealing state to live in.
Yeah.
Unique breed up there. So, but yeah, I got that running right now in Breachbank Clears. So.
All right, and where can people connect with you online?
The best thing is if you guys are interested enough to care about Nate Murr, just go to my Instagram and follow me at GripStop on Instagram. And if there's any subjects of note, just send me a direct message.
Very cool. Picture with your post with your pup was awesome. You got a pretty dog.
For what he costs, he better be. So. Yeah, Atlas. He's been sitting here with us the whole show, so he's turned in quite the little German Shepherd dog. So just turned 4 months old.
Awesome. Well, Natalie, Girls Guide to Guns. What's up?
Yeah, usual, same old right now. One fun thing that I'm going to be doing, if you happen to be on the East Coast, South Carolina, Georgia area, I'll be speaking at the National Shooting Sports Foundation weekend beginning end of May, beginning of June. So I'll be on a panel with Bob Owens, which from bearingarms.com. So I'm stoked about that. That's my next big thing. And then, girlsguidetoguns.com, although there hasn't been a lot of activity over there lately, so you can see me on my Facebook, Girls Guide to Guns Girls Guide to Guns Facebook, and then same handle for Instagram and Twitter and all of that. And other than that, I'm just making a person. No big deal.
Making a person.
You have that healthy pregnant glow, so.
Yes, absolutely.
It's makeup, but thanks.
That could be your next brand, you know, Pregnant Glow Makeup or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's a whole different space. I think I'm going to start with the little girl's guide to guns. Although I don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl yet. So if it's a boy,
are you going to find out?
Totally adjust. Heck yes, I'm going to find out. I don't have that kind of patience. Please. But I have decided I'm doing the nursery in all Americana, like American flag and all vintage American stuff. I'm so stoked. Boy or girl, it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. They got to know. They got to know early.
I like that. That sounds awesome. That's a great idea.
Right? Yeah. I'll show you. I'll take pictures.
Very cool. Billy, what's going on?
Well, some people might know I was running a Kickstarter campaign for my project, Protecting Liberty. That ended on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I did not reach my goal.
But you did blow some serious, I mean, like, come on, how many contributors did you have?
Just under 1,000 and raised $78,000, which if you spend any time on Kickstarter, you know, looking around at other projects, you'll realize that that's a significant amount of backers and money raised. So, you know, I'm proud of that, and I'm really thankful for everybody that, you know, shared and donated to the project. It's really amazing to see how many people rally behind it. But unfortunately, you know, didn't hit the goal. So it's back to the drawing board. You know, I'm trying to figure out what to do next, you know, where I might be able to go to find some money. I think the good thing to come out of Kickstarter is that, first of all, it made people aware that I'm trying to make a documentary, which is a good thing. And it also shows a tremendous amount of support for it, which, you know, if I go to try to find a private investor, I can say, hey, look, you know, there was 1,000 people that backed this project and I raised $78,000, even though I never got the money. It shows interest, which is pretty cool. It's hard to ever show that. Like when you come up with a movie idea and you're trying to find investors, people are like, yeah, that sounds great, but how do I know if people are going to like it? Well, now I can say there's some proof that people are going to be interested in it. So that's where I'm at right now.
Very cool. And where can people connect with you online?
If you go to Facebook, Amidst the Noise. On Twitter, I'm also at Amidst the Noise, AMIDST, THENOISE. And on YouTube, I'm if you just search Amidst the Noise, I'll pop up. Or Google Amidst the Noise, you'll find me everywhere.
I figured out and created in the show notes the last 2 times you've been on that amidst is the hardest word to spell.
It's a hard word to say.
Yes. But very, very cool. We'll have links in the show notes to your YouTube page and other places to connect with you. So, Adam, what's going on?
Oh, you know, just raising hell and causing problems with everybody we can. Got some interesting stuff back from some of the right-to-know requests we had filed, so we're going to be working on some appeals for things like that. Some other interesting things going on.
So right to know. Say that in English.
So in Pennsylvania, well, I guess on the federal level, you have your Freedom of Information Act request. The right to know law in Pennsylvania is a similar mechanism for state agencies in order to improve transparency. So the law firm, myself, and attorney Joshua Prince have submitted a number of different right-to-know requests, requesting different information relating to ongoing litigation in suits filed by the NRA, state preemption stuff, donors to funds that are attempting to protect these illegal ordinances, and things of that nature. We've gotten some of the documents we've asked for. Some have been redacted, so there's an appeals process for that, and you know we'll see where it goes. It very well could end up in court as far as trying to get the information we're after. So we'll see where that ends up.
So you get some of them, and they're like it's like all black. It's all.
Yeah. I mean, we did get, for instance, one of the cities provided us with a donor list, and the donor list itself, it just has the dates the donations were made and the amounts. There's no donor information, no name, no address, no identifying information. And I almost forgot, but we did appeal. Harrisburg had redacted that information in that right to know request, and we did appeal it, and we did get a determination from the right to know law officer, not right to know law officer, the person handling the appeal, that Harrisburg is to disclose the donors in that case. So check, you know, hopefully we'll have that information. We presume the city will appeal it, but you know, we'll see where that goes.
Can that turn into like a never-ending loop? I mean,
eventually, no. I mean, if it goes to court, it'll go through the court system and end up in our Supreme Court. And if it gets to that point, and our Supreme Court will be the final arbiter on determination as to whether or not that is information that has to be disclosed, and a court order is a court order. So.
All right. Where can people connect with you?
Okay. The blog is probably the best place. That's blog.princelaw.com, and that's in the show notes. The law firm has 2 Facebook pages, Prince Law Offices. You can hop on Facebook and check that out. The other one is Firearms Industry Consulting Group. The firearms one obviously deals with specifically firearms issues. The other one is just general stuff. As far as checking me out personally, I have an Instagram account. It's Moose00015. So it's the animal moose 00015. If you like pictures of dogs, guns, and other fun stuff, check me out on there. That's pretty much it.
Should have went with Buffalo.
Jake, can I chime in before you wrap it up?
Yeah, go ahead.
So a friend of mine just sent me a screenshot of a Michael Moore tweet from today, which I know Billy's going to be so stoked about.
I already saw it. I think it's sarcastic, but share it.
Oh, you do?
I think he's not being authentic.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a very confusing tone. People aren't really sure.
Yeah,
but
I don't know what he's trying to say either.
How do you convey tone through text?
What's it say?
You should be a good writer. So it just says, Michael Moore, this is at 5:05 a.m., April 30th, so today. He says, next demand, disarm police. We have 250 million Second Amendment guns in our homes for protection. We'll survive till the right cops are hired. So nobody really knows what he's saying right there, especially after bowling for Columbine. But so you think he's sarcastic, Billy?
I don't. We could drive to his house. He's only about 25 miles up the road from me. But
he drives to yours plenty, right?
Hey, if he doesn't want Clint Eastwood to drive to his house, he doesn't want us to drive to his house.
Right.
Actually, he spends his winters in New York City. He only spends his summers here. So. Again, not the top 1% or anything.
Right. Summers in Michigan, right?
I almost forgot. Also, if you are in Pennsylvania, like myself and Nate, and Chaos when he's on the show, May 12th. It's a Tuesday. It's going to require you take off work, but at 10 a.m. there is a Pennsylvania Second Amendment rally. Second Amendment Action Day, it's the 10th one. Everybody gets together. There's some awesome guest speakers, and then we go in and we talk to the different legislators in the state about state law issues. So if you are in Pennsylvania, please do join us. It's a very important day, and nothing says that you care like taking the time to go do some lobbying.
Adam, that's up at the Harrisburg Capitol, right? The Capitol building?
Yeah.
All right. You sent me a thing for that. Make sure you call me Monday night and remind me.
Okay.
Since you're like my personal assistant.
Sure, I got it. I'll mark it on my calendar.
Oh, that pup. That's a happy pup right there.
Mr. Atlas.
That wraps us up. Leave your feedback by commenting on the bottom of this YouTube video or the bottom of the show notes at thisweekinguns.com/115. And don't forget to leave us an iTunes review and subscribe there. Continue to contribute to our show by shopping our Brownells affiliate. That's right. We also have a Brownells affiliate link on the site and our Amazon affiliate link. It really helps keep these shows coming. So that's a wrap. Thank you, Nate.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, man. Good to see you guys.
Thank you, Billy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jake. Good to see everybody.
And thank you, Adam.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy it.
And we'll see you next week. Why is it taking so long to stop?
God. We're still alive. Don't say anything, Natalie.
Right.
You're still alive.
Timestamp, right?
It's funny. It just says